Great to have joining us now, man. It's really interesting and I'm sure helpful book. We're all dealing with the changes in healthcare and insurance and how to pay and all that kind of thing. And the book is called Your Best Healthcare Now: How to Get Doctor Discounts, Save with Better Health Insurance, and Find Affordable Prescriptions. We're joined by the healthcare detective, Frank Lalli, from up in New York City today, and he joined us by telephone. And Frank, good to talk with you. How are you?
I'm fine, Doug. Thanks so much for asking.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very proud of the book. It took me 3 years to do it. I interviewed more than 300 experts face to face, and I'll tell you, it grew out of a bit of bad luck. I have a blood cancer called multiple myeloma,
right?
And I've been an editor of Money Magazine. I worked for Time Inc. for 20 years, and at one point, just a couple of years ago, they canceled all their drug benefits over $1,000 a year. Now, that was a real problem for me because at that point I was taking a drug that cost $570 a day.
Wow.
To help me stay alive. And I understand that's a business decision. I'm not quarreling with that. But here's the fiasco. No one at the company or anyone else I could get in touch with could tell me what the drug was going to cost me the next year. So I made a whole bunch of phone calls, and I ended up writing about it for the New York Times. The story went viral, and here's the part that triggered the book. I got stacks of letters from readers, in some cases in worse circumstance than I was in, because I found a grant, ultimately, that covered the entire cost of my prescription drug. Didn't cost that $570. Didn't cost me a penny. But but my wife said, you've got to write a book about this and help other people to understand that there are ways to navigate our system so that you can get better health care, the best health care in the world, frankly, but at a price that you can afford, get prescription drugs at a price you can afford, and get better health insurance. That's why I did it.
Yeah, I have a relative who went through something similar, or is going through something similar to you with the medication. It's scary and it's frustrating. So
it's very frustrating. I've got an entire chapter, 17 ways to do it. You know, and it starts with looking your doctor in the eye and saying, do I need this medicine? Tell me what it will do for me, and tell me when it will I'll actually get the benefit. So if the doctor says to you, oh, okay, look, you've got a little infection, this will clear up in about, just take this, it'll be cleared up in about 7 days. Then you say to the doctor, okay, write the prescription for 10 days or 14 days. Don't write it for 30 days. You should see my medicine chest until I figured this out. There were drugs that I just needed for 4 days. I've got 90 of them. I've got 120 of them. Right. And I paid for all of that. So that's where it starts. And then the second question to the doctor is, okay, if I need this medicine, do you have any samples? Right. These drug makers drop off tons of samples, and they're all free. I walked out of one doctor's office, non-addictive painkiller, with more than $1,000 worth of medicine, just by saying, "Do you have any samples?"
No,
I'm trying to convey that. Look, I'm a journalist. Okay, I grant you that. But everything I did, anybody can do. This is common sense.
Yeah, my mom was a nurse for many years, and even as a kid myself, going to the doctor. I don't remember it being like this, and that's not that long ago. So what happened? Was it just the insurance went completely nuts? What happened?
Well, what's driving it lately is drug costs. They're just doubling and tripling. You've read this stuff, EpiPens, and
right.
The other guy that finally ended up getting arrested, he raised drug price by 5,000% overnight, and it was a medicine people needed,
the pill, right,
to stay alive. Yeah, and he was arrogant about it. So I think drug part of it, and then just the relentless high cost of medicine. Healthcare all across the country. And employers have stopped absorbing these costs. So they're pushing it on to the workers. And now that's what you're feeling. You go to the doctor, it used to be a low copay, $10. Now it's $50. If they come down the hall to take your blood, it's going to cost you $35. And you got to ask the nurse, why are you taking my blood? Do I really, you go back to the doctor and say, look, I don't, this is just a checkup. I don't need $800 blood panel. You don't have to check my thyroid. You can, and here's, if there's one thing your listeners should absorb, you can look the doctor in the eye. He's not going to bring it up, or she's not going to bring it, but you can look the doctor in the eye and say, look, I really can't afford. Are you telling me I really need this procedure? I can't afford it. Now, can you give me a discount? You don't know this, but a lot of people don't know this. Doctors have standing policies, many of them, to cut their prices in half if they think you're sincere. They'll cut it all the way down to 10%. You need to be sincere, and you need to ask. And then doctors look, I've interviewed a ton of them. They're compassionate people. They see what's happening to these costs, and they don't want dollar signs to get between them and their patients. Okay? So if you raise a subject about a discount, you'll find out that in many cases they've got standing policies. Or just simply say to the doctor, look, I know you take Medicare patients. Just give me the Medicare rate. I'll pay you cash. If you have a high deductible health insurance, the way a lot of the large corporations, especially, are forcing high deductible policies onto their workers, you don't have to use that policy. You can simply, you don't need to use that insurance. You can simply say, look, I'll just pay you. I'll pay you cash. I'll pay you what. Forget my policy. I'll pay you what you accept from Medicare patients,
right,
or a Medicaid patient if you're seeing a doctor like that. And look, I'm not guaranteeing it happens you'll get that much of a discount every time, but you will if you ask. Some of the time.
I think that's where it's going to eventually wind up. People just go back to the old days. You just pay cash, and that's it. Because there's no way. We just, at our company where I work, they just offer the health savings account, but very high deductibles. I know you talk about that in the book. So
you're exactly
putting it back on the employees.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
Exactly right. And I'll tell you why. A third of the large corporations have that as the only option. And I'll tell you why they're doing it. They can save up to 20% on their medical costs by forcing everybody to absorb the risk of getting sick with a high deductible. Now, look, if your deductible is $1,000 or something like that, okay, that's one story. But if it's 10 or 15, and a lot of workers make this mistake, don't take on a deductible. I know it lowers your premiums, but don't take on a deductible that you really can't afford to pay. I mean, most of the bankruptcies we have in this country come from medical bills, and most of those people had insurance. But in many cases, they drove the premiums way down by taking a big deductible, and they said, nothing will ever happen to me until they have a car accident. Or I'll tell you this actually happened in my family. In my family, badly twisted ankle, ended up in the emergency room, cost them a ton of money, okay? Being chased by a feral cat.
Oh, boy.
anything can happen. Remember poor Joan Rivers, who went in for a routine checkup and ended up dying. Yeah. Anything can happen, especially when you think you think I was going to get a blood cancer. You think I was going to wake up with a blood cancer?
Right.
But I did.
Well, I know we have limited time, so I want to get your website and get information on the book, Your Best Healthcare Now. Frank, you have a website you can direct people to?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Your Best Healthcare Now, if you want to buy this book, and I advise it for you, but go to Amazon.com. That's the best way. Just click twice and you got it. The last name is Lalli as the author. You can also go to my website, which is healthcaredetective.us, and you'll get a lot of information about the book and other things that I've written. A lot of people have looked at the book. I've gotten, thankfully, very good reviews, including from Tom Brokaw, who said, Lalli's advice has been invaluable to me, and I'm confident it will be to many others. And I certainly hope for all your listeners that it helps them.
Frank, pleasure talking to you, and God bless you. Hope you continue to feel better, and thanks for writing the book, and thanks for joining us.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you, Doug.
I'm Stan Brock. 30 years ago, I formed Remote Area Medical to help people overseas. But then we found generations of families in America isolated